Okay, welcome back everyone. It's Dr. Lindner. Let's take a look now at the adrenal glands. So when we look at the adrenal glands, we'll see that we have the kidney, and then above it, the adrenal gland on the left side and the right side. When we take a closer look at the adrenal, we'll see that there's this outer portion and an inner portion. The outer portion is called the adrenal cortex, and the internal portion is called the adrenal medulla. And this is really important because you need to know the histology of the adrenal cortex. There's many layers there, and they're responsible for releasing a bunch of different hormones. So let's take a look at the cortex and the medulla a little bit closely. And here's the histology of the adrenal cortex. So when we look at the adrenal cortex, we'll see that it has three main layers. It has the zona glomerulosa, which is more external. We see that here. We have the zona fasciculata, which is right here, kind of like the middle layer. And then we have the zona reticularis, which is the deepest layer, right? It's the deepest layer before we get here into the middle, which is where we have the adrenal medulla. Okay, so what does the zona glomerulosa secrete? Well, it's going to secrete a mineral corticoid, not a glucocorticoid, a mineral corticoid. The zona fasciculata releases a glucocorticoid. Now, what's the difference? Cortisol, cortisone, and corticosterone, those are glucocorticoids that are released by this larger area here called the zona fasciculata. The zona glomerulosa is going to release this mineral corticoid called aldosterone. So aldosterone is a hormone that is responsible for retaining and holding on to sodium. It holds on to sodium, it gets rid of potassium, holds on to sodium, and it's going to hold on to water, right? Remember, wherever most of your minerals go, especially sodium, water follows. When you think of sodium, I think of NaCl, Na plus, Cl minus. That is salt. Sodium, I think of salt. And whenever you have salty pretzels, salty potato chips, we're usually thirsty afterwards, right? They go hand in hand. So when you consume sodium, it's going to hold on to water, usually. So aldosterone is a mineral corticoid. Which mineral is it primarily focusing on retaining? Sodium. Okay, so we know what the zona glomerulosa does. We know what the zona fasciculata does. That's cortisol. That's your like stress hormone. When your body's under stress, it pushes cortisol. And then we have the zona reticularis, that deeper layer that produces androgens. Now the adrenal medulla, this internal area here, is responsible for producing catecholamines, primarily epinephrine, norepinephrine, and it also produces dopamine. Dopamine. Okay. So again, zona glomerulosa secretes hormones called mineral corticoids. What's the main mineral corticoid? Aldosterone. What is aldosterone primarily dealing with? Retaining sodium. The zona fasciculata secretes a hormone called glucocorticoids. When we think of glucocorticoids, we see the word gluco, which is involved in affecting glucose balance. The big hormone there is cortisol. And then the zona reticularis secretes a weak androgen, primarily testosterone. So again, aldosterone is that major mineral corticoid secreted by the adrenal gland, and it helps to regulate sodium and potassium homeostasis, primarily retaining and holding on to sodium and water. When we talk about the adrenal glands, we have to talk about and mention a system referred to as the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Sometimes it's called the RAS pathway or the RAS system because it's the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway. Well, what does this have to do with? If we look at the words renin, we see renal for kidney. When we see angiotensin, the word angio means blood vessel, and tensin sounds like tension. So this is going to be dealing with the tension of blood vessels, I guess, maybe blood pressure, maybe. And then we have aldosterone that we know is involved in sodium balance. Okay, so when we come back, we'll talk about this RAS system.